So yesterday we discussed how to create a 3D parametric large mass in order to create a building form out of it. And one of them that we created was a circle, circular form extruded basically with three separate reference lines that created the extrusion. But we weren't able to set a height parameter to it. And so today I just want to show a brief video on how you can do that, and maybe with a couple of different types of shapes. So I'm going to I'm in my conceptual mass project environment, sorry. And I'm going to switch to my east elevation. And up here I've got an option called reference planes. I can go ahead and create a couple of reference planes here. We're just going to keep it fairly simple for now, but I'm going to call this reference plane ref1 and this reference plane ref2. And I'm going to dimension from my level 1 reference plane to ref1, and again from my reference plane to ref2. I'm going to go ahead and set up some parameters. Just going to go ahead and delete these because they're a bit confusing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add a new parameter and call this ref2, and I'm going to add a new parameter to this and call it ref1. And now if we go in here, we can set our ref1 equal to ref2. Make sure everything's the same. Ref2 divided by 2. If we hit apply, ref1 changes. And now we can just call out 100 feet for ref2, and ref1 is half that distance. And say OK. I'm going to switch to my 3D view, and let's kind of scroll around here a little bit. And so I've got my floor reference plane, and now I have a ref1 and a ref2 reference plane. And these planes are still cutting through, so we can still kind of attach stuff to this center point. So let's go ahead and create a reference circle on the first floor. And let's make sure that we have our first reference floor selected. And I'm going to go ahead and make that a permanent dimension and add a parameter called R1. Say OK. Now I'm going to choose the ellipse tool, and I'm going to set my work plane to ref2 by picking it. And just being careful that I definitely selected the center point of this, but on the second level. So all those highlighted when I selected it. I'm going to make these two dimensions permanent, and I'm going to add some more parameters and call this L1 and call this L2. Say OK. And if we note, we can change those. And they flex. But we can also start to say, well, we want the radius of this to be ref2 divided by 4. And let's see how big that makes that guy. Maybe divided by 2 is more appropriate. Try 3. Visually, that looks a little better. And we can also set these I'm going to rename that to being W2, and maybe we want this to be L1 divided by 2, and we want L1 to be constrained by reference 2. So let's try 4 and we'll apply that. Maybe that's a little too much, so let's try 3. And I'll say OK. And so now all these shapes are flexing, but let's go ahead and place a third shape up here. And I'm going to use reference lines, and I'm going to inscribe a polygon, but I'm going to make it a 4-sided polygon. Let's just, and let's set our reference plane to reference plane 2. Now we can set some length and width parameters to this guy as well. And so let's just add this width and length. And now we're going to go back into our family types, and we can make L equal to W and W equal to reference 2 divided by, let's try 4. So we could change this whole thing, and everything grows and flexes based upon this reference height of level 2, or reference 2. Say OK. And I can create a shape just like we did with all the circles. And that thing's pretty ugly, but you get the idea of the power that we can do with formulas and setting stuff equal to each other. Maybe if we reduce this, now it still looks pretty ugly, so I think we want to change this to maybe 4, and our radius to 4 as well. Maybe make that 6. And now that's starting to look a little better. But it's not quite there yet. So we can just keep tweaking this formulas until we get something, a shape that we like. At any rate, now that we have our shape, we can tab through and maybe divide the surface of just that. And maybe this plane here is also a divided surface. And if we load in our pattern, which I don't have here, but looks like I don't have one. But if we load in we create a new curtain panel pattern based family, and I'm just quickly going to draw one up for us. I had created two of them on accident. You can go ahead and start applying this custom curtain panel to those three surfaces. And when I load it into my project, I can now start to change these walls to being something solid and a roof, and we can place floors in here just like we placed floors and roofs and walls in our other two conceptual masses. And the beauty of this is, I'm going to go ahead and load it into a new project. And I can now select this guy And I should be able to change just reference to, and all these guys will change with it. If I hit apply, this whole thing should shrink down. And it does. So just like before, we could create multiple levels in here and create the masses for each floor. And what if we wanted like a shaft that runs through this entire thing? You go to our architectural openings, architectural ribbon, and our openings tab, and we could create a shaft through this guy. Let's maybe make it a circular shaft. And we should be able to go all the way up to level 6. And so now there's actually a hole. Maybe we want to go just past level 6 here. And now you can see there's a hole through all my floors. And notice that my curtain size is a little bit big, so I believe I set a radius to that, so I can go like 0.25 of an inch and hit apply, and the curtain panel should start looking normal again. Might be a little too small, but it at least allows you to update the size of your curtain panel based upon the size of your object. So now they're starting to look a little bit better. But okay, let's go back and let's change the size of our shape to maybe being 75 feet. I'm going to hit apply. And this will take a little while for it to think. So I'm going to pause it. Okay, so I'm back again, and you notice that our object has, our building shape has flex to being larger, but our floor plates are still the same size as they were. So I could left drag and select all of that and go to our filter command and just select our floor plates and go ahead and update those surfaces, and now you see the floors have now updated to the new mass. And we need a couple more floors in here, so I'm going to go ahead and create 2 more floors, and I'm going to dimension them to be equal to each other like we did previously, and set a dimension here, and let's try 10 feet. And that looks alright, but we still need to get these other 2 floors. So if I select the mass, you can either go to your properties here, which I've been showing you how to do, or click this mass floors option, and it brings up the same dialog box, and I can mask those other 2 floors out. And I can go back and I can pick these floors and create them as well. And now move this guy up, and you can see that I now have a shaft that cuts through the entire building maybe a set of stairs would go through there, or the HVAC system, or something. Also, you'll notice that these guys don't necessarily fit the object as well as you would want them to, so we can edit the boundary of those guys, maybe with a little arrow. Arrow that in a little bit, and you have to play with it to get it precise, but let's go ahead and just apply some walls to this guy as well. We can pick these that warning was not real important, but we can go ahead and pick the walls that we didn't apply anything to and create a brick facade with this exterior brick on CMU. It's probably not the best building material to use for this, but just kind of showing you what you can do. And you could also go ahead and make a roof on this guy. I didn't do it. Make a roof. Make a roof and create the form. And I don't know if I showed you how to change the size of that mullion. I started doing the video and didn't record. But we could tab through to select one and then go ahead and change the radius and also update the material as well. And that's going to take a second here to update those. And if I flip to my realistic view, I can go ahead and turn my mass off. And you'll see I've got this really funky looking building now. And again, the floor plates, you can edit them and change their size a little bit or move them around, or redraw them however you want, cutting more holes in them or doing basically whatever. But let's go ahead and turn the mask back on and select it. And I'm going to make this building a bit larger. Hit apply. And this is going to take a few minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. Okay, I'm back, and you can see that all the stuff that we just made isn't applied to the mass anymore. It stayed the same except for our curtain walls, and we don't have a ton of floors in here, but again, we could create more floors. But I wanted to show you that if we selected those three walls, we could update to face. And so now those walls are back to being the same size. Same with the roof, update face, it moved it and changed the size of it. And if we filter out just the floors, we can update those as well. And so I can then turn off my mass, and our building is back to being the same size. This still allows you to place doorways and windows in these walls, so that doesn't inhibit you from placing other components in the wall type that you made, even though it was picked from the mass. Graphically, it can appear funny sometimes because this wall, this is straight up and down vertically, but this wall is kind of angling back a little bit, and so it's not quite cutting exactly how we want it to. But you could start to edit the family to get it to do that. And I'm not going to show you exactly how you would do it, but I think you would get into a left view and you'd have to manipulate this so that it's at that angle. Maybe the reference plane gets rotated. Not really sure. That didn't seem to do much, but at any rate, you get the idea, and I just wanted to show you that you could do a lot more with the tools that we learned how to use yesterday in class. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on Tuesday.